Welcome to Spa Marketing Made Easy, a podcast for spa owners who want to step up their leadership and business skills and step into the role as spa CEO. I'm your host, Daniela Warner, CEO of Atto Aesthetics and founder of the Growth Factor Framework program, where we teach, coach, and guide spa owners in scaling their spas to the next level of growth and unlocking freedom in their life and their business. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's dive into the show. Hey friends, happy January. Daniela here. This is the Spa Marketing Made Easy podcast. And I want to know, how are you feeling right now? Are you in the camp of new year, new you? I've got all these goals. Or are you really just tired and exhausted from a busy holiday season? I know for me, I am someone who loves the sun. I love being warm. I love green plants and beautiful flowers with all different kinds of colors. So for me, January and February are always the hardest months, which is why it's especially important during this time of year when there's no leaves on the trees and everything seems kind of cold and gray, that I really focus on my mindset. And this can be hard for so many people, which is exactly why today I wanted to share with you some of the mindset hacks that I have used over the years. And I'm going to be talking specifically mindset hacks towards business, but a lot of this overlaps into the personal. So personal and professional, there's really this kind of blurred line. And you'll kind of see that as I'm going through these. I've said many times, and I truly believe that everything after 100K in business is mindset. So that first 100K is proof of concept. Does this idea work? Do the people I'm targeting want to buy the thing that I'm selling? Well, mindset for me, the way that I define it, the way that I see it, is really steeped in personal development. So what am I doing to grow and expand my mind? What am I doing for myself that allows me to ask better questions? How can I grow so that I can see things in a different perspective? How can I find the limiting beliefs that I don't even realize I have? Now, the more that I've gotten into the deep end of personal development, the more I realize that I have the ability to own everything in my life. So I don't get to control what happens around me, but I do get to control how I respond to that thing. So if I'm reacting to something, that sort of right away, right off the bat reaction without thought, it kind of highlights an area that I need to work on. So for me specifically, I'm going to share some kind of personal stuff here. The question that I ask is, how can I manage the stress and anxiety that I feel when I've not planned for a certain set of circumstances? Now, for what comes up for me, like stress and anxiety when there's chaos, when there's not something that's planned, that might be different than you. You might thrive in chaos. You might thrive in spontaneity. And so keep in mind that what I'm sharing is my personal experience as someone who really values stability and security. Okay. Again, it may be different for you, but I spend a lot of time living in the future and planning for different possibilities. So what would I do if we fell into recession? What would I do? What actions would I take if our revenue hit this level? What actions would I take if our revenue hit that level? How would I handle another pandemic, God forbid? So I like to have multiple backup plans as well as milestones where action needs to be taken. And those that have been in my world for a while, or if you've worked with me closely, you know that I typically have at least 3 backup plans. It's a coping mechanism for my own personal entrepreneurial journey. I systemize everything. I plan far in advance, which limits uncertainty. Now, I am by no means saying that this is the right thing to do. I'm also not saying that it's the healthiest way to live your life. Trust me, I've had many conversations with my therapist around the fact that I don't like feeling in chaos. But I also know that I am strong, I am resilient, I am resourceful, And I know that I can handle anything thrown my way, especially when I have the time to formulate a plan. So there's this great quote from Mark Twain, and it says, "I've lived through some terrible things in my life, some of which actually happened." So anyone that's ever experienced anxiety, you know that is, you feel that in your soul. I certainly do. It's not a great thing to worry about the future. But again, this is just, I'm sharing my personal experience, which actually feels a little bit vulnerable, but I want you to understand my path and my personal journey, and also share with you the things that have worked for me in terms of personal development and really strengthening my mindset. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. So first things first, diet, exercise, and sleep. These are the basic, but so many of us underestimate the level of impact that these three things have on our performance. The impact that they have on our ability to think clearly and make strategic decisions. So I'm not someone who loves working out. I tend to have these ebbs and flows where I'll be super consistent for months and then I'll drop off again. For example, like the first half of last year, I did really well. I was consistently working out for 3 to 4 times a week. The days that I didn't work out, I was getting 10K steps in. And so I was feeling really, really good. Then it was summer. The kids were home from school. We had some travel, and I just got out of my normal routine. And since then, I have not been able to get back into it as consistently as I had before. It is a goal of mine. And I hope by the time that you guys are listening to this episode, I am back on the workout wagon. I know I will be. I have no doubt I will. My real challenge will be, can I stay on it when my routine shifts? Now, I want to be healthy. I want to take care of my body. But honestly, the greatest change I see when I work out consistently is in my mind. So I'm more balanced. I'm more clear-headed. I'm in a better mood. And I have more energy. I don't snap at my kids as much, far, far less. Like, you're just able to handle pressure in a different way. So it's unbelievable the change that simply taking care of yourself with good food, restorative sleep, and consistent exercise will have. Now, the next thing that I recommend is to find a good therapist. So many of the beliefs that we have formed around money, around worth, around people pleasing, these were things that happened when we were kids. So even if the logical part of our mind seems to have processed things from our childhood, our subconscious mind may still be holding on to them. And this is where EMDR comes in. So EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So I'm going to read a little paragraph from an article, and we'll link this article up in the show notes so you can explore more about it as well. But it says, some of the studies show that 84 to 90% of single trauma victims no longer have post-traumatic stress disorder after only 3 90-minute sessions. Another study funded by the HMO Kaiser Permanente found that 100% of single trauma victims and 77% of multiple trauma victims were no longer diagnosed with PTSD after only 6 50-minute sessions. In another study, 77% of combat veterans were free of PTSD in 12 sessions. There's been so much research on EMDR therapy that it's now recognized as an effective form of treatment for trauma and other disturbing experiences by organizations such as the American Psychiatric Association, the World Health Organization, and the Department of Defense. Now, I know that you might be thinking, Daniela, I don't have PTSD, but the point of this therapy is to move things from the subconscious mind into the conscious mind so that it can be processed. So the beliefs that we have that are holding us back, that we might not even be aware of, that's what we're trying to work through. Now, oftentimes, those beliefs are around money and worth, two very important things to have a handle on as an entrepreneur. So whether you do EMDR or talk therapy or some other type of therapy, I believe it's beneficial for everyone. And today, more than ever, there is really less of a stigma attached to it. So the important thing is that you find a therapist that you trust and you connect with. Okay, next step for me has been really deepening my spirituality. And for me, that means listening to the Joel Osteen podcast. He is a megachurch Texas preacher who is honestly the last person that I thought I would connect with, but I absolutely love his podcast and I have been listening to him for years. So he combines faith with mindset, and every single time that I turn on his podcast, I feel like the message of the day was especially for me. Connecting spiritually can be walking in nature, it can be meditating. It doesn't have to be connected to a certain faith. It's really about connecting to something greater than you, finding out what makes you feel a sense of awe, wonder, and gratitude. And for each person, that is going to be different, and that's totally fine. The point is that you figure out what works for you and commit to it. And last but not least, I ensure that I am reading a mindset book at least every 2 to 3 books. Okay, so what does that mean? So I'm a pretty big consumer of books. I actually don't read them. That does not work for me in this season of life, but I am eternally grateful for whoever created Audible. So in addition to running my company, I'm also a full-time chauffeur for my kids, as I'm sure many of you can relate. So I have entered that season of life where I'm in the car for hours a day, going to and from school and to after activities and all of that. So instead of sitting in silence in the car or listening to music, I'm listening to books. That's, when I'm not talking to my kids, right? So there's the drive there and then the drive with the kids. But when I'm in the car by myself, I am always listening to books or to some type of podcast. Okay. So depending on the length of the book and also how many podcasts I'm listening to in between, I would say that I get through somewhere between 2 to 4 books per month. Now, one of the books that I recently finished was Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. He's a Navy SEAL. He's an ultra marathon runner, whole lot of other accomplishments. And he also had a really challenging and abusive upbringing. And his book is really about the power of your mind and how he accomplished all of these things through developing a strong mindset. So he's got a lot of stories in there. Really, really great book. And I'll say one thing, I loved listening to it on Audible because they would do the chapters. His ghostwriter was actually interviewing him in between the chapters. So you got kind of this expanded version of some of the stories he was telling. So it was really a benefit to listen to the book rather than actually reading it. Also, a few books ago, I read Grit by Angela Duckworth. Great mindset book as well. As I'm selecting what it is that I want to consume that particular month, I'll have a business book, a mindset book. Every once in a while, I'll have historical fiction or a biography. Shout out to Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. That was a great book that I listened to earlier in the year. Really enjoyed it. But I guess the point that I am trying to make is to be intentional about what we are consuming. My time will always be the thing with the greatest value. So how can I make sure that I am maximizing the way that I use this precious resource? So let me do a quick recap here. We started out by talking about getting your basic needs of diet, exercise, and sleep handled. We moved into therapy and EMDR from there, followed up with deepening your spiritual side, and wrapped up with feeding your mind content, whether that is a book or a podcast that motivates and inspires you. Now, I do want to add something that is sort of overarching, and that is community. As humans, we need to feel a sense of belonging. We need humans we can pick up the phone and call without it being weird that we didn't just text or schedule a Zoom call with. And if you don't have community right now, I want to encourage you to seek it out. I know it can feel hard and overwhelming, but I promise that there is nothing more valuable in life than the relationships that you have. This can be both personal, it can be professional. So take the time to develop those. Put time into building real, authentic relationships. It will make all the difference in the world. So thank you guys so much for listening. I am rooting for you. I am cheering you on. I want nothing but the best for you, both personally and professionally. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the next episode. As always, if you want to keep the conversation going, I want you to head on over to the Spa Marketing Made Easy Facebook group, the #1 free resource out there for estheticians focused on business building. We've got weekly marketing tips, a monthly goal setting and planning session, monthly esthetician business book club, plus a community of thousands of estheticians committed to business building in the spa industry. I'll see you there. Quick reminder before you leave, if your spa growth still depends on you doing more, it's time for a shift. Watch The System Shift, a free training designed to help spa owners break past that $25,000 to $35,000 month plateau without adding more treatment hours. You'll learn the CEO level systems that help you scale while protecting your time, your values, and your peace. Go to grow.autoaesthetics.com/podcast and watch The Systems Shift. That's grow.autoaesthetics.com/podcast.